What is what's the final thing in the...
The final thing.
The final brilliant thing.
The final brilliant thing. Okay. Russell, close your eyes. Okay. You're me. How does it feel? Good?
It feels lovely.
Yeah, it's great, right?
My hair is neat.
Yeah.
I've got tattoos.
Yeah, you're a cool dude.
Yeah. I'm feeling all right.
Overwhelming anxiety? That will creep in, don't you worry.
Okay.
So...
I'm just desperately trying to not bump into my nan.
Yeah, there you go. So, you're like me. You're not like me, you're me. You are 12. School's really tough at the moment. You don't like it. You've just found musical theatre and you love it. Mm-hmm. Your mum, you're not invited to things that much at the weekend when the other kids from school are doing things. So mum, in her beautiful, loving way, makes out like we're really busy, so you couldn't do it anyway. And one weekend, mum gets us tickets to go to London to watch the matinee of Grease.
Ooh.
You're in the dark of the theatre, the lights are starting to go down, and you hear the orchestra doing that. You hear all the musicians warming up, and there's that sort of hush that something is about to start. That feeling.
Oh, I like that. So
I love going to see shows, and it's the anticipation of something really exciting about to happen on stage.
You definitely get that, don't you? When you walk into a theatre where, like, if you go into the Albert Hall, there is that instant sense of, well, we are somewhere special, and the seats are nice.
Yeah.
And I was in a place in Gothenburg called Draken Live, which means Dragon Live.
Love.
But it was like these lovely red
those drop-down seats.
Yeah, but also in Europe, when the lights go down before the show, they have this kind of thing that they're very, like in America, they go crazy, like, "Ooh, the show's about to start." But there's a real silence in Europe of the performance is about to start.
Let's be respectful.
Yeah, and in that silence, there is something really. I know what you mean. It's the potential. It's like walking around an empty theatre.
Yeah, it's like getting on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
As the thing.
Yeah.
Those things go down, and you go, it's about to happen. That's how I feel in theatres, and it happens when I'm going to see shows, and then I'm lucky enough now that I get to play some of those beautiful theatres, and I get it when I'm about to do my please welcome to the stage me, Suzi Ruffell.
I'll be honest with you, when I was briefly pretending to be you, and I was closed my eyes, that really upset me that you didn't, and your mum would kind of. Why didn't you? Because you're such a likeable person.
Well,
who was your first mate?
My first mate was someone called Katie Burrows, who's carried on being my friend, but we didn't go to the same secondary school. Right. And so we were friends outside of school, and then she had other mates at school, but actually she would always really include me. But I just, do you know what?
Is that sorry to cut you off.
No.
Does that happen a lot to people who are gay? Do you have that thing of like trying to cover your tracks, as it were? Right.
When I met Tom Allen's one of my best friends, and when I met Tom, I felt like it was one of the first times I met someone that I felt like really understood me. Right. I was like, oh, yeah, you did like all of the pretending, and we're both quite into musicals, we're both quite, avant-garde in things, and we like dressing up, and we've always been those kinds of people. And it was like, it felt like a bit of a relief. And now I've got more friends like that, more queer friends like that I feel like that around. But I think that part of it was to do with the fact that I was really hiding who I was, and I was really frightened that people wouldn't like me. Also, it's important to sort of note when this was. It's way before people were, there wasn't Chapel Roan, and there wasn't, Billie Eilish. There was my first real memory of knowing about a gay woman was knowing that Ellen had her show cancelled after she came out. Yeah. That was sort of, so I wanted...
It's so funny that, isn't it? That feels so close, and yet you're right, like, culturally, it's wild, isn't it? To think that would have been an era when female pop stars would be like, don't come out.
Yeah, of course, don't come out. And so there was, I found it really hard. It's like, when, it doesn't happen so much now, but there was, for a lot of the early part of my career as a stand-up when I played the clubs, there was loads of homophobia. It was just a given. I remember getting like horrific homophobia and then coming off stage and like, no one would check if I was okay. Yeah. No one would be like, that must have been horrible. It was just like, you need to be a bit, like, I remember a guy saying to me, you're going to have to get some better put downs. That's all he said to me. And I was like, that man just told me he wants to fix me and has just done some really like awful, gratuitous sex stuff and just shouted it. And then a load of men cheered. Yeah. And you're my colleague and you're old enough to be my dad. Yeah. And you've not said, are you all right? Yeah. Like, it was just, and so, I mean, that's
also, it's the insane arrogance. Like that, I found that. It's interesting because it's obviously upsetting, but it's also hilarious that somebody genuinely believes that they could fix you.
Well, do you know?
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I would imagine if you spent an evening with that man, you would be an even more committed lesbian.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Like, by the end of it, you've cemented what I felt.
I think the meanest thing I've ever done on stage was I was at a gig in Cardiff. And I was hosting. Yeah. And I walked out and I did my first little bit. And I learnt pretty early on that I had to reference my sexuality before someone shouted it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I've spoken to like Mae Martin and Tom and, you know, you speak to most queer comics, certainly people that were coming up at the time that I was. Yeah. I think it's quite different now for queer acts. But certainly when I was starting out, I had to let them know that I knew that I was a lesbian before someone shouted. I had to get it in really quickly. Wow. And it had to be a gag at my expense.
Yeah.
God, it had to be a gag at my expense. And I remember
it's such a horrible thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But also the fucking confidence it takes to, like, the misplaced confidence it takes from somebody in the audience to go, I'll tell you what's going to win the rest of the audience round. Right. Because presumably they reacted in a...
Yeah, so that
Do you know
happened.
what I mean? It's not like they're not going to...
Yeah.
You might get one or two people go, ooh, but most people be like, mate, Jesus.
Yeah, right. So I'm on stage in Cardiff, I make a gag, it gets a laugh. It's the laugh that makes you go, oh, this is going to be a good gig.
Yeah.
Okay, I know where I am with these people. These people are good. This is fun. I'm hosting. We're going to have fun. And a guy from the back shouted. I think he shouted, "I can fix you," which is weirdly something I've had quite a few times. Yeah. And that day, I was just like, no, I'm just, maybe I'd had quite a lot of it but I was like, fuck this. So I was like, put the lights up.
Oh God.
Put the lights up.
Yeah.
And then I made the guy stand up.
Yeah.
And he was like a big guy in a Swansea shirt that was stretched over his boobs. And I was like, you think you're the guy. You think you're the guy.
And
I was like, do you still think you're the guy?
The other acts are like, oh God.
Yeah. But like, you know, I think I got the gig back round. But do you know what?
But no, don't.
But it was just like,
and what it
was, I'm not having it today.
So was it that thing of, what did that feel like? I
felt sort of proud of myself afterwards, but also like I needed a shower, because that's not my kind of comedy. I don't really do.
Yeah, it's
mean. It's not my. I kind of hate the comedy that's like, you're a prick, you're an asshole. I'm always delighted people have come. Yeah. Because you are here, I get to do this, and this pays for me to live my life. Like, this is amazing that this is my job. I love it. So I've never been into the.
Do you think he felt ashamed?
Yeah, and do you know what? I think he'll never fucking do it to a woman again. And I think, good. You know, because if he's shouting that at me in front of 300 people, what's he saying to women in the street or in the pub when there's no one to call him up on it?
Absolutely.
So
this is the way my positive brain thinks. Maybe he was trying to get rid of your anxiety.
Yeah, definitely that.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
No, I just meant... I'm a registered therapist. I've joined the house. Imagine that. It's just like, I recognise that, you know, you're struggling with something, and
oh no! Oh God, this is going. Oh God, I need to find the club.
It's gonna be you. Is it with your fucking man boobs? No, I was just sort of saying.
Yeah.
Cognitive behavioural therapy is a very good way of overcoming problems.
Oh, Ross, you give me anything to worry about?
Nah, but it's very interesting. That's why I love. I can't remember who it was, but there was a comedian who was talking about the fact that how different it was not being white. That he was kind of. I can't remember who it is, but he said very matter of factly. He went, "Do you know the difference is you can run for a plane."
Yeah.
I was thinking, wow, there's such an interesting thing of then going, oh my God, yeah. If you are a brown guy, you know, you probably can't stop the play, everyone like, but it was that's the magical thing about comedy, isn't it, that sometimes it allows you to see, you go, oh yeah, bloody hell.
That is the thing that is magic about comedy, because you know, you really are let into other people's worlds, and you know, I've learnt so much from being a comic. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've learnt more than I learnt at school or at college about what it means to kind of be a person in the world and what different people's experiences are like. You know, more than reading a newspaper. You know, you go and watch someone and you go, oh, okay.
I remember seeing one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in stand-up. I was 19. It's my 19th birthday. And I was watching Johnny Vegas at a gig in Bath. And he goes, and this was in like the pottery days. He had pottery on stage. And he goes, what do you do? To this girl in the front row. She went, it's too embarrassing, too embarrassing. And he goes, what? I'll tell you embarrassing. I used to have a bath on my own because my dad had a job. And I used to get the flannel and I used to tie it around my penis. And that was what I did when it was my bath time. But my dad lost his fucking job. And I was in a bath with my brother and I pulled the flannel and I tied it around myself. And my brother said, Johnny, you're going to jail. That's embarrassing. What do you do? And the whole thing was this self-attack to put her at ease.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember even what she said she did. And then he turned that into this routine. But it was this masterful sort of moment where she was genuinely, please don't pick on me, I'm really nervous. And he just scraped himself out to show her it's going to be fine. Yeah. And it was beautiful. And like you say, when you learn stuff about comedy, you kind of go, that's one of the most incredible things I've ever learned, that you kind of, to put someone at ease, just slap yourself about a bit and then they're fine. Totally. And that's a lovely thing when you do that. You know, when you've got the time to do that in like a tour show and you can really take people on a journey, it's such a privilege to do it.